Hey students, this is lesson 5.5, indirect proof. You will learn how to write an indirect proof. So draw a line from each statement, column A to one or more pictures that contradicted in column B. So saying X is less than Y, contradicting that would be this, where X is equal to Y. Also this, X cannot equal Y there, and this, where X and Y are both the same. Contradicting X is equal to Y is that one. X cannot equal Y. And contradicting X is greater than Y is color, this one, and that. All right, so writing an indirect proof. There's 3 steps here. State as a temporary assumption the opposite or negation of what you want to prove. Show that this, step 2, show that this temporary assumption leads to a contradiction. Step 3, conclude that the temporary assumption must be false and what you want to prove must be true. So, first thing we're going to do is learn how to write the negation. All right, so it's the negation of what we're trying to prove that we want to write. So there are at least 16 right-handed students. So if I let R be my right-handed students, at least 16 means greater than or equal to 16. If the negation of that would be R is less than 16. So there are less than 16 right-handed students. And B, n is divisible by 2. Basically what we're saying there is we divide n by 2, we get a whole number. So the negation of that would be n is not divisible by 2. All right. So what do we want to prove here? We want to prove that triangle BOX is not cute. What is the opposite of what we want to prove? That triangle BOX is acute. The first step in the indirect proof is to write the following. Assume temporarily that triangle BOX is acute. All right. Suppose you want to write an indirect proof of this statement as the first step of proof. What would you assume? So we're saying at least one of the items costs more than $25. So that means we have an item that the cost is greater than $25. All right, so what do we want to prove? We want to prove that an item costs more than 25, so that one item is greater than 25. The opposite of that is that an item is less than or equal to 25. So we are going to assume temporarily that at least one item costs less than or equal to $25. Okay, write the first step of the indirect proof of each statement. So we want to prove AB is equal to CD. First step is to make a temporary assumption. So temporarily assume A, B is not equal to C. And to prove the sun is shining, you want to temporarily assume that the sun is shining. All right. Identifying contradictions. Now remember, if we want to use an indirect proof, we have to be able to notice a contradiction when we see one. So let's analyze these three statements and see if there's a contradiction here. First one, triangle URT is acute. That means that the measure of all angles are less than 90. Okay, and to say that triangle URT is scalene, that means the measures of all sides are different. So there are no equal sides. And then to say that triangle URT is obtuse, that means the measure of at least one angle. And since you can't have two angles that are obtuse in a triangle, the measure of one angle is greater than 90. Now, if we look closely at these, the two statements that contradict each other are number 1 and number 3, because number 1 says that all angles have to be less than 90, and 3 says that one angle is greater than 90. So there's a contradiction. All right. All right, to write an indirect proof, we want to do the 3 steps that we talked about earlier. The first step is to make a temporary assumption of what we're trying to prove. So first of all, we're going to say y is equal to 7. And our reason for that is our temporarily assume of the negation of what we're trying to prove. So once we write y is equal to 7, we can also write our given. Then we can write that 5 times x plus 7 must equal 50 by substitution. And then we can divide both sides by 5, so we can say x plus 7 is equal to 10, and that's using the division property. Equality, and then we can say x is equal to 3, and that's from the subtraction property of equality. And from up above in our given, we have x is not equal to 3. That's given. And so we can say that y is not equal to 7 because we have a contradiction. And the contradiction is right here. We came up with x is equal to 3, and at the same time x is not equal to 3. And that can't happen, so we have just proven that y must not equal to 7. So here's our first reason, and then this is given, and y, and our final thing is what we're trying to prove, y is not equal to 6, and that is proved by contradiction. All right, the lesson check. Check if the statement is the correct assumption to make as the first step in the indirect proof. So we're trying to prove that quad ABCD has 4 right angles. 4 right angles. So is quadrilateral ABCD is a rectangle? That is not a negation. Quadrilateral ABC has 4 non-right angles. I don't think we need to have all 4 be non-right angles. Quadrilateral ABC does not have 4 right angles. That would be the correct negation of the statement. All right, that's the end of the video. See you tomorrow.